We are live! Welcome everyone to the Cloudwork podcast.
Welcome.
Yeah.
Nice to be here as always.
Yes, did you know we're already at episode 12?
Hmm?
Episode
We're
what?
We
going
are
in for a
all
fortnight.
we're already at episode 12. So it means we're
Oh,
already like two episodes into the double digits, which is really good. I really like that.
yeah.
Yeah, soon we're gonna going to go into the not innocent zone and just talk angsty stuff. Get into the teenage years. It's over with the innocent.
Today it is talk, but in details of uh made differently back in the '90s, and then you know,
80s.
and each of us have a different. We're going to discuss about that.
Yes.
So,
Movies.
gonna be a lot of fun.
It will be a lot
Oh,
of fun talking about how things used to be and how things are now. I think, especially when it comes to morale and how people thought in that time.
yeah. So, who would like to go first?
I have only one, if you allow me.
Work, go.
Yay! Well, as
Ah,
the animator of this lovely podcast, I will talk about animation in the 80s. Um, Mainly about the secret of Nim. Do you know that one?
I've never seen it personally, but I know a lot about it. A lot of nostalgia critic, and he loves that movie, so he talks about it from time to time.
Yeah.
Like
yeah,
I
the same.
The
things about it.
yeah. So the secret of Nim, for the people who do not know what it is an animation done by Don Bluth and his crew. So not Disney, but by Don Bluth, about a widow mouse who needs to move her children away from the field that she lives now because the farmer wants to plow the field, and she needs to get help from the rat. A lot of political stuff, a lot of magical stuff happens, really, and basically the story is about how this mouse finds her inner strength and goes on and on, in cooperation with different animals. Um, First things first. What do you know what NIM stands for?
No.
What?
Do you know what NIM stands for? It's NIMH.
Oh, I actually don't.
It actually stands for the National Institute of Mental Health. And I didn't know it,
Oh,
and I didn't know that until I was actually researching about this movie. It is never mentioned.
Good.
The only thing that you would know about Nim was that there was a lab with a lot of animals that were used for testing, because that is what they show actually. But it's actually about the National Institute of
uh,
Mental Health.
Ah.
Yeah.
I know there's scenes inside of it, like a lab
Yes.
and things like that.
Yes, but so I never would have guessed it was Nim stood for that. I always thought it was Nim was like a magical creature or something, or a magical
And
institute.
so did I.
Yeah, but it's actually just the real life National Institute of Mental Health. So that was the first thing I was like, oh, okay, this is something political about testing on animals within the Institute of Mental Health, apparently. Um, but what I really want to talk about, like not about political issues, because right now nowadays these kind of political issues you cannot just put into a children movie. But what I want to talk about is the animation itself. I put up a picture of the movie. As some other critics might have said, it is a beautiful movie. It was made by Don Bluth, and Don Bluth himself worked for Disney, but he kind of got
Weird.
into arguments with Walt Disney himself, and he left the company to get his own stuff done. And one of the first things that came out of it was this lovely picture.
He did a lot of good animation stuff,
Yes.
being anything from Dragon's Lair, Space Ace,
Yes. Thank.
like
Yeah.
he did some other.
Spaces
Magic.
It
for the
was also
Super Nintendo.
he
Ah.
did. I want to play some Space Ace. Dang it!
Yes.
Yes. It's a
But-
Space Save on the Super Nintendo. Ah.
Was also I think he did Fifo Goes West. I think.
Yes.
No. He did the first Fifo movie. No, he did the first Fifo movie, A Trip to America, or something. The other Fifo movies were not him.
I know
And,
that.
The Land Before Time. That was also Don Bluth, and the other, the like 16 other sequels were also not.
Well, I bring up Fifo and stuff was because uh, a habit since they were always really good and they always had a habit of getting direct to VHS sequels.
Yeah.
Out of those.
Oh yeah.
Land
Oh,
Before
yes.
Time it has like 20.
Yes.
No, I said that it has like 60.
Yeah, but
Oh.
it's so much, and they will still come out. In the meantime, Magic, thank you so much for the raid. Everyone, welcome if you don't
Oh,
know
hello.
us. Um,
Hello.
you're now viewing.
Why should we thank somebody for raiding us? Isn't that a bad action?
No, in Twitch is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. So it means like
We're actually a good guy?
yes,
Come on.
it's good.
But
But thank you.
Historical joke.
Okay.
like Disney was also very much into direct-to-DVD sequels around that time.
Yes.
Oh
Direct-to-VHS sequels, I should say.
To be honest, the
Direct
sequels were
to
very
DVD.
bad from
Easy.
Disney as well. But they did, in the 80s, Disney did do their renaissance. There was like The Little Mermaid, etc. They were already in the 80s. So like the 70s and 80s were a big renaissance act for Disney. But Don Bluth really fell out with the company and made his own thing. One of the first things was The Secret of Nim. And one thing that I discovered was if you can see those eyes of the old mouse that are lighting up, that's actually empty space. So normally if you do the old-fashioned way of animation, you have layer upon layer upon layer and you really color everything in. But those eyes and the twinklings and all the different lightings, they actually used gels for their lighting and they left spaces open. So it has this really glowy and sparkling effect on the movie. And if you compare
Oh my God.
The Little Mermaid with their backgrounds, they're also very good, but they are nothing compared with the backgrounds of The Secret of Nim.
Oh.
And just little.
But if I could just put in a button here,
Yeah.
that combined with the first movie,
Mhm.
the Land Before Time franchise 14 movies.
Yes.
They also have a goddamn TV series that has a season with 26 episodes, and I don't know how many else. A
Mm-hmm.
lot of stuff, and I actually have like 3 or 4, 7 of no 3 or 4 or 7. That's a big jump, Benjamin. Uh, no, I mean I have like maybe 3 of them at home, and I actually kind of like a lot.
Okay. Well,
I like,
Well, like,
yeah,
that stuff Harper's to,
yes.
yeah.
you're when you were a
I
kid and
w-
all that.
yeah, I grew up with like kids will like most movies even if they are bad because they don't know that the cliches that are used are not cliches in their eyes. That's like a whole new thing, and
Yeah.
even if it doesn't do it well, they still like it because they don't have anything to. That is why people start to get more picky and start to dislike more movies as they grow old.
Yeah. I wanted to go on that because this movie has blood and fighting and actually a lot of um, explicit scenes when it comes to violence.
Oh,
It shows blood
oh yeah,
and that kind of
Dom.
stuff. In
Yeah,
in
Don Bluth.
yeah.
Uh, Don Bluth had kind of a motto or what would you call it? That's a philosophy where kids would could go through anything as long as you gave them a happy end.
Yeah.
So he
Happy
was
ending as
always
in
quite
everyone lives
direct
happy
with
ever after.
heavy stuff like how we touched on what was it? Littlefoot's death.
Yes,
Is that
the mother of
Mom,
his name?
Littlefoot.
yeah,
Yeah, Littlefoot's mother. Yeah, that was, oh god.
Yeah.
No, no.
Yeah. Compare that to nowadays. Uh, it's completely different.
Oh yeah.
So
Yes,
I was
where Frozen can get a 13 rating by just making a very subtle dick joke. Um,
yes. But especially with the gore, with horror and violence,
yeah.
the 80s were like heaven compared to what's going on right now. This was a PG rating. There are like main protagonists are killed.
Oh yeah.
This old man is
Oh.
murdered by a block of concrete. Um, as you can see,
uh-huh.
he's not very pretty. He's actually very old and mangled. Something that modern day cartoons for children are very scared about. So yeah, this is actually
Oh yes.
a very big
Oh yes.
change in
Nowadays
morale.
too,
The
though.
nostalgia.
Also now, because back then there was Disney making like movies and animations and things like that. But nowadays there's a lot of more of DreamWorks or Illumination
Yes,
or I think Blue Sky,
Oh
people like
yeah.
that who are making a lot of it.
yes,
So it's different
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
because Disney actually
Yeah.
doesn't make their money from animations as much anymore, and it's more
Yeah.
like the other companies that
Mm,
they own.
more movies come out and becomes more main become that makes a lot more money is involved, and that more or less. And when there's a lot of smaller studios, they probably want to try to go for the most broadest or audience so they can get the biggest profits,
mm-hmm.
and that kind of streamlines the whole thing. And anything that makes a lot of money, a lot of people, it's trends more or less. If a kids movie that has an okay amount of gore and violence, or at least touches on those subjects quite bluntly, if that makes a lot of money, that would actually be a good thing because a lot of other smaller studios will probably stuff like that into their movies.
Yes,
But
Like
also,
the
the thing that you say is that Barb said about the how the 80s had so much gore and stuff in the kids movies. Nostalgia Critic actually made a skit about that. It
Yeah.
was like more or less, here, 80s
Don't
movies, we scare the shit out of your kids so they shut the fuck up.
Mm-hmm.
Oh
but
yes,
like
yeah,
I think
it's in the Labyrinth review. Oh god,
Yes.
yeah.
I think that uh, don't realize that kids can take a lot more than the most popular movie to come out. The Spider Verse had actually spoiled two death scenes in it,
Yes.
Mm.
and it did really well.
Mm.
Like do it, like you can have characters not come back and still like a mature way that doesn't take away
Yes. True.
this story and what you're trying to convey,
Yes. Roasting
not
Tomatoes, thank
drawing
you.
attention to it, I guess.
Yes. Okay, so that was my idea about Secret of Nim. I really liked it. I do have a small comment on the story. The story was too compact for the time. There was too much shit going on. Even as a child, the only thing I remembered as a child was the big red magic stone, and that was the whole story that I that I remembered from the whole Secret of Nim. So there was too much political shit going on in that movie. But I really
Oh
like to
yeah,
rewatch it.
like
Um,
a like a movie from Disney that is quite similar in tone, kind of Dark Cauldron. I have watched that one, and I don't remember a thing from
That movie
because
was interesting.
yes.
yeah, and it's
Uh,
plummeted them into the dark ages, and ah god, it was a very boring movie that was so complicated you forgot. And I some kids, yeah, if they don't get grabbed by how good the Secret of Nim is, they probably wouldn't yeah remember that much
Yes.
and just be
Actually,
scared.
nowadays, just because like oh, is like very muddy and not very bright and colorful
Oh.
before Space Ace, and like and Nim is very dark with a lot of dark colors, so like kids wouldn't be as grabbed as something it's
Yes.
like really
Yeah.
bright and colorful.
Mhm.
Yeah.
But
Goddamn kids.
Just before we go to the next
to
one,
work,
Roasting Tomatoes, thank you for saying great podcast so far. I love it, and I also want to say Cloudwork is an amazing title. Thank you. It means a lot to
this,
us.
that was a fun coming up with the title for
Yes.
something neat, and I like it a lot.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
It
and it
grabs
was really
people.
fun to just walk in after it was made and was like, yep, I surely made an impact there.
You are the sparkle, darling. You are the sparkle of
Yeah.
our
Yes.
podcast.
Ooh.
But
Uh,
let's go to the
my turn.
other. Yes. Are you talking
And
about
because
one
I
specific
got
one or multiple ones?
let's start with yeah. So I'm gonna do like 80s horror stuff,
Mm-hmm.
and
Ooh.
the one that started it all, Halloween. Uh,
Oh.
so actually, like I believe, and uh, like people didn't think it was gonna be popular. They like made it. It didn't make it with an intent of like, oh, this is gonna make a lot of money, and we're gonna make, and like it wasn't shot like that. It was like made it,
Mm-hmm.
and it was, and people loved it. It started the slasher craze.
True.
Was that movie? The it It's pretty good. A little slow, but like it's pretty to the point.
What do
It
you
has
mean?
amazing
I
track
th-
shots in it.
what do you mean with a little slow? Please explain.
I don't get it.
Pretty much is it open to Michael killing his like his family.
Mhm.
Okay, but like it takes a sec. It does take like there's like some it and first you're like what happening because it happens so fast and it's slow in the way like dialogue moves really in that movie with the doctor Michael escaping from the prison actually like talking to his sister. There's a lot of shots of that are really good that don't happen a lot anymore of actors talking and loud being like in the background
Yes.
there and to build up that suspense because you give you a sense of like Michael could have like killed them at any moment,
Mhm.
which is
Mhm.
really cool. Um, I really wish I could tell you who did the classic theme, but I don't remember.
Hmm.
Ingrained in my head since I never when I was a kid I didn't really watch those movies, but I knew from or someone watching them,
Mhm.
and I remember doing it in on a piano in a class goofing off. Even before I even really seriously watched horror movies. But once I did in one came out and it was great and it was amazing.
Mhm.
Uh, is actually the sequels were originally intended to have a different story. Each movie would tell a different story about day and all that. That's why you have that weird third one,
Mhm.
like a
A gay alarm. More or less, Roasting Tomatoes says John Carpenter was the writer of the piano.
Yes.
oh, that's really good. I didn't know that. Thank you, Tomatoes. I appreciate it. Uh,
I don't know.
but I really the third movie is really weird because like they wanted to like tell different stories. The third one actually mentioned or praised. People are like, why would you make two movies about Michael Myers and then a third movie about evil like masks that will like kill your children if they watch it still wearing them? Uh,
Yeah.
like
Mm.
and uh, so uh, Halloween though we got Friday the 13th,
Mm. Friday the 13th.
which is like later in its life is gets really fun. But in the beginning, the first one doesn't even have Jason in it. It's mom
True.
before he is,
I've seen that
and
one
like
indeed.
I don't
I
personally
actually have
don't.
some. I actually have some trivia about like one kill, or more famous kills. Is the one where I think it is David, Kevin Bacon's character, the guy when he's laying down on a bed and a arrow comes through the back of his neck and out through the front.
Mhm.
Hmm? Um, could you confirm that that is Kevin Bacon's character? About?
I think that was Kevin Bacon. Like, and I think that's
Yeah.
like the second or third movie, but I know what you're talking about.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, yeah, and it's one of the more famous kills in the franchise. And the thing is about they, of course, I think they have head or something, and because of that, and those effects are probably very expensive to make.
Tickle
They
is like expensive, but so worth it.
Yeah.
It's so worth
Yeah,
it.
they're very expensive to make. So they only have the one, and the automatic thing, the automatic pump that would pump out the blood when the arrow pierced the skin, it fails. So under the shot, a one of the prop makers or somebody behind the camera had to actually blow into the tube to get the fake blood.
Ah, okay.
There's a lot of
So
fun
that.
stories with
Mhm.
Tank because of the reused. So the first movie, it's Pamela, and the second is when Jason comes in. The hockey mask.
When does he get his mask? Yeah, is it the
The
3D one?
third
The
movie.
third?
Okay,
The
so the
third
third movie.
movie.
Okay.
The third movie is really good and has a lot of really cool kills. The third movie is also very gimmicky because it was supposed to be anything with a 3 in it was a 3D movie.
Oh yeah.
There's a lot
Oh
of
yeah.
3D kills.
The 3D with the 3D
Yeah, there's some
glasses,
good
you
ones
mean?
still. The ones got done though because of it. There's a lot of famous arrow one is in that one where like arrow directly at the screen and it like it's in the eye,
Yes.
Yeah.
which is actually the scene I think he first wears the mask.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like that was really interesting, and
Sorry.
it is not even until the sixth movie and Jason Lives where he natural and like has super strength and all that. Like he gets the ability to like punch through his first kill in the sixth movie is him punching straight through someone's heart like that.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of cool stories with the practical effects.
Mm-hmm.
I
Mhm.
watched Terry on almost all of them. There's a lot of like fun stuff of people getting held up by things, like heads that were uh, for Jason. The Final Friday, I think that one's called.
Mm-hmm.
A scene breaks, he crushes someone's head, and the head was actually made as a fake head that they created. Shame they cut off some of the blood. Uh, During this time, the like rating system was very different. I think
Mm-hmm.
like studios were very heavily cutting 13th and
Oh
all
yeah.
other horror movie blood reasons,
Yeah. But
and like there's some gnarly kills that are just like straight up like cut
Oh, okay.
that in later
and,
versions got
and
to be finally seen.
talking about fun things about the movies, there's a lot of fun stories coming from the actual actors who played Jason. If you didn't know, most of the guys who play Jasons are like over, probably over like probably over 6'5", and all of them are like big, buffed up beefcakes with broad, thick,
Oh yeah,
thick shoulder.
there's
And
a lot of cool
in
ones.
yeah, there's a lot of the funny ones where there was one time where one of the actors went home after shooting one day, and he had to go to the dentist, but he couldn't bother to take the costume and make off, or he just wanted to just do a funny prank. So he just went in. to the dentist office with the costume on, like big, burly, bloody, wet with the mask room, and picked up a magazine.
Okay.
Man, I'd kill for that.
Yeah.
But
And there was like one time where one of the actors was going around in the woods, and a Boy Scout saw him, and he scared the living daylights out of him.
Yeah, I can imagine that.
that um so just one more thing about Friday the 13th, and I'll move on to my last two
Mm-hmm.
movies I'm going to talk about. So to the final one, the original plan was this was going to cut like the top part of Jason's head off, and not just like part of it, like in the what ended up happening.
Mm-hmm.
That was the plan, but
Okay.
they didn't do that. And as soon as that happened, Kane Hodder, I think it was Kane Hodder, or one of the makeup effects guy that created Jason, basically, like from the ground up, did all the makeup for him because he knew right then that the studio was going to make more. He
Yeah.
didn't want more. Originally, so scarred from it that he was going to become Jason.
Mm.
That idea, they brought Jason back, and this, that's some fun trivia on that. And
Mm.
then even decided to take horror movies and made the Nightmare on sequel syndrome as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the first one is the people love the first one. I don't like the first one all that much. I like sequels. Uh,
I for one
uh,
haven't watched any of these movies,
so
but I like the concept of the
go on.
Nightmare on Elm Street.
One.
What?
In a minute. But the first movie like scared a nation pretty much, like
Mm-hmm.
terrified of that movie. Just the idea of a killer getting to you even while you're sleeping.
No, it's not
That
even. It's only when you're sleeping.
my my best friend's mom was telling me like that because she was alive when like that was going on. She's
Mm-hmm.
just like, yeah, when that happened, I remember not being able to sleep for weeks just because, and like that's crazy that a horror movie was able to.
Yeah, to do such thing.
Yeah, but it makes sense for that specific movie at least. Again, it's a
And then
movie about about a killer who became a ghost and haunts people's dreams where he kills them. If it scared people, that would probably make a lot of people not wanting to go to sleep,
Mm-hmm.
especially younger kids.
this sequel, Freddy's Revenge, regarded as one of the gayest horror movies ever come out because there's a
What?
lot of like a lot of subtext to that movie, and a lot of like the actor was very scared. Like the main kid was very scared doing that movie. He himself was gay, but hadn't come out yet.
Okay.
Wait, how old was that a kid?
He's in the movie. The actor was like 18, maybe
Oh.
something around there. It's I'd always years to play teenagers in horror movies, but sometimes they made sure like they were over the age of 18 for so like showing off their body wasn't illegal.
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
Yeah.
there's a lot of that. There's a lot of lots of of the main character waking up screaming, sweating, like uh, out of that.
Mm-hmm.
He at one point he winds up at a like BDSM gay bar at one point,
So,
and the gym teacher turns out to be like, and makes him run laps in the gym and stuff like. There's a lot of that, man. There's just a lot of like, that boy has a set of ones on him, which because he was one of the first Green Queens.
Was one of the
Because
first
like
what?
uh, screen queens are people are the girls in horror movies that like good
who can do a good
during like
scream?
Mm-hmm.
For example, I
scream
cannot
real
scream.
loud. Hear scenes scream you hear in horror movies, and like they end up being final girls too, but that's not always the case. Watching it, I was like, it's funny because that was my first horror movie I ever watched all the way through. Was the second Nightmare on Elm Street movie.
Okay.
It's the only one on Netflix at the time, and I wanted to get over my fear of horror movies because I used to have a huge fear.
Okay.
I still have it.
That one, I would suggest watching it if you want to like aim, but it's still considered a horror movie.
Yeah.
There's some pretty good kills in that. Uh, Freddy getting pulled out of his dreams and being party and being just like, "You are all my children now" is pretty funny. The later sequels, 3 are pretty good. Scene from 1 is pretty good,
Mm-hmm. Oh dear.
Oh god, that's
but
such a subtitle. Dream Warriors.
but after that, like Freddy became like the quippy like villain. There's some really dumb movies. Dream Child is pretty. Uh, Freddy's Dead, and that just got silly real fast.
Mm-hmm.
And then after the sixth movie, the franchise stopped. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, I
Yeah,
guess
yeah.
Raven's New
On
Nightmares
account
counts
of
as
the
7.
yeah, but on account of the director being dead, Wes Craven.
He died that this happened.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Wes Craven's New Nightmare, and then which is technically the seventh movie, but doesn't follow the continuity of the other movies.
And then he
And
died.
then
Mm.
nope, the hit classic that changed people to horror. Uh, is that
Wait.
Scream is my
Oh,
that ever came
yeah.
out.
Didn't Wes Craven make that one too?
He made the first one. I don't know if you had any other 3, but so good. So the first one, it takes place in our world where horror movies exist, usually, and like opening of a girl putting one of those Jiffy popcorns you make on the microwave.
Mm-hmm.
As she gets a call from the killer, and they discuss horror movies. Everyone knows the line, "What's your favorite scary movie?" And that's where that came from.
Okay.
Uh, made the villain realistic.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. until the third movie where they had like a voice mod. Yeah, but yeah,
The actually was done. That I thought they did this in post, but actually that was a real phone call.
Oh,
What they
okay.
did, even and the crew were outside, and like as the voice called her lines like back and forth over the phone,
Yeah.
doing that voice.
yeah, but
Uh, it,
was the lines we hear in the movie the actual lines spoken during that phone call on the other end?
yeah, that's like the
Oh,
actual like.
so they just recorded that phone call and put it into the movie, and that was
So a lot of cool things about that scene where like she leaves the popcorn going that whole time. So
Mhm.
like they get smoky, it's then eventually, which is like really cool for that's a really cool shot.
Mhm.
Um,
wait. Is the micro? Wait, in the background is the micro. Wait, is the microwave?
but it's one of those Jiffy where you make it over the microwave, over the stove. Uh,
Oh,
like
over the stove.
know,
Okay, so
like you would bring camping so you could like over the campfire.
yeah. Wait, so yeah, the pan starts.
And like she's running around the house because he's her boyfriend.
Mhm.
She's like, and then she gets questioned about horror movies to save him. Like, gets chased and eventually gets stabbed and hung up. The scene that got heavily cut. The scene that reveals her parents, and I believe you can even see her hanging in the background, talking and entering the house.
Okay.
Uh, but like, but that shot, that zoom when her being dead, so heavily cut down.
Hmm.
See what happened.
Yeah.
Again, a lot of practical effects in this movie. Fun fact: the Ghostface like costume originally was gonna be like pretty much all white. It was normal, but everything else being white.
Mhm.
Interesting. The cool thing about the killer in this movie, two people, like they're not perfect in the way that in what they do. So like they'll trip, they'll fall, they'll get hit or blah. It's true for all the sequels. Two being really good movies, really solid kills. Like just they're really fun. And then the third movie sucks, and is
Yeah.
your a long lost brother who like was here the whole time and
Oh
made
yeah.
Billy and Stu from the first kill everyone. I was a director. I directed them.
Oh.
What is bad?
Yeah. That sucks.
Like
Yeah.
sort of thing.
Yeah. Didn't
Fourth
it get
movie
more sequels after that?
was no, they had fourth movie. And I like the fourth movie. It's not the best one, but it's
Yeah.
also
But
pretty
wasn't
good.
that one
Really fun.
yeah, but wasn't like that one the one that was really riffing on the genres
A little bit.
and the genre?
It does a lot of reboot stuff, and that's really fun.
Yeah, and
Uh,
doesn't it poke
movie.
holes at reboots?
It pokes holes on like sequels.
Yeah. You
They're in
can't
the
do that during
universe
a
of
uh, fourth entry of franchise or something like that.
franchise came yeah, like the fourth movie came after the third movie,
Mhm.
and like it makes jokes about in the universe of Scream made about the events that keep happening called Stab.
Oh yeah. There's like doesn't the fourth one start with like, somebody watching like Stab 7 or
It's
something?
like 7 or 6,
Oh yeah.
and then
I think it's like the
then it's another
7th
fake
one,
out,
but
and it's Stab 5.
Hmm.
Then it's like 2 fake outs, and then and
it's
then
like a fake out with it. It's a fake out within a fake out, and then to the real thing.
um
Yes.
the rare that also got rare movies also got a show recently.
Okay.
That's booting it kind of. It's like the first 2 seasons, like the mask is different and the
Mm.
costumes a little different, and like this whole like name like named Brandon James it wore this mask, and it's the Brandon James mask, and someone's killing people wearing it, and it's pretty fun. It's not bad. I suggest it if you like horror. And third
Running through
season
my house to
just
get a
came
cable.
out.
Cable.
Look out, Benjamin.
I'm coming. You're loading cable. Ah!
The third season was ignored all that for some reason and made a whole new like thing in the original costume
Mm-hmm.
with a lot of fun characters.
Coming back
Came
down.
out 2 days ago,
Mm-hmm.
like maybe like beginning of the week.
Okay.
So it's long. Like 3 days, they did 2 episodes a day
Oh wow.
season.
Oh god damn it.
It was short, sweet, and I really enjoyed it. And so like, but that was my movies. Those are the movies wanted to talk about.
Yeah.
These horror compared to now, there's like there's not a lot of sequels anymore unless you're and they also shook up things when it came out, but
Mm-hmm.
like
Oh yeah. Made
currently
found footage kind of legit.
blew up. Like the Blair Witch, like it blew up.
Yes.
So like psychological horror stuff that's getting people, and not a lot of slashers. Jordan Peele's like movies are really popular. Get Out and Us.
Mm-hmm.
Those
Nowadays,
are his only 2 movies. Yet they are both magnificent.
the only thing we have of franchises right now is the Conjure.
The Conjuring, you mean?
I think
The Conjuring universe.
universe, stuff with Annabelle.
Wasn't
And,
La Llorona into the Conjuring universe?
Conjuring 1, there's the Conjuring 2, which are they're like based on real stories, but like took into like Hollywood extremes.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah, the couple in that's a real paranormal hunting that exists. They
The
actually
Hall
house the
of like
real
stuff
Annabelle
is
doll.
real.
There's a real Annabelle doll that doesn't look at all like the Annabelle doll in the movies, but yeah, it exists.
Yes.
The
It's
Raggedy
hot
Ant.
and
It's a giant Raggedy Ann doll, which I think would have been much scarier as a
Hmm.
not the Annabelle doll they went
True.
with
yeah, you can
in the
actually
movies.
go visit that doll, but the thing is, you are not allowed to try to make
You're
fun of
thinking
it within its presence, and you have before taking a picture because
you're
if you
wrong.
don't,
That is
it
not
will haunt you.
Annabelle, you're thinking different doll named Benjamin is a completely different doll that is locked somewhere else.
There are
But
multiple cursed
at least
dolls,
he was a
indeed.
doll. It's a different doll. It's so weird.
Yes.
It's a
Yeah.
weird doll, man.
Cursed dolls are
It's
weird anyway.
Mhm.
like, and
Oh
then
yeah.
Benjamin,
Wait, wait,
it's
wait,
your
wait, wait.
turn.
There's like one franchise that's kind of still going on. It's the Saw franchise.
Ah, yes, the Saw franchise.
Turn that people
Yeah.
on the horror
And
on its
also
head
like
as well.
there's a new kind of like there's there's like did its sequel came out recently, and also Happy Death Day came out
Maybe
with
Death
a
Day isn't really a horror movie. I call it like a,
yeah.
but
Yeah, but then the Happy Death Day to you, that's definitely not a horror movie. But Happy Death Day and Happy Death Day to you are horror movies like you would count Jurassic Park as a horror movie. It's a franchise that launched with heavy with some horror aspects, but then kind of derailed, but still had some horror aspects to them.
Hmm. However, Benjamin, before we go into that,
Yes.
you want to talk about another movie.
Oh yes, oh yes, oh yes. And we're gonna go over an hour because again we have gone to an hour now, but we still haven't got to much, which I think. Uh,
No, it's okay. But
yeah.
you also
So
told me to put a spoiler on.
yeah,
So to say that
this will be a big spoiler because I will more or less spoil the whole mystery of this movie, and I am going to talk about the first Ace Ventura. Yeah, you can have. Ah,
refrain from
yes.
making Ace
Uh,
Ventura jokes, and you're talking about Ace Ventura.
of course, yes, I will. I will. The hair. Oh God, yeah.
I
I
said to
love that
refrain.
movie. What?
Then continue.
but tell me,
Yeah, I didn't get. Yeah,
Benjamin, tell me
I
for the
love
people.
that movie as a
Yeah.
child. That made me think that like Jim Carrey's my favorite actor, and I think like at least the comic actor, of course, comical actor. Yeah, I love him.
Mhm.
Is
Very
he's good.
animated.
He's good. But yeah. But like recently, I what I didn't really watch. I like watched the half of it,
Mhm.
the last half of it, and um, it can
Good.
like being quite like I'm a self-appointed trans ally, but yeah, so don't take that seriously. But I try to be quite supportive, but being that, it kind of gave me a sour taste in my mouth to the end, and because again, a lot there was a few jokes that in there that like the thing that was supposed to be funny was like, haha, that's gay, more or less. Mm,
Mhm.
But also, you gotta think. I've been thinking about it since you brought it up, and like in the conclusion, it's a little different only because the
Oh.
I will get to that. And I'm sorry to shut you down, but I will get forgot about that. But like there's one scene, there's like this montage where he has to uh, like find football players, have to find football players to look if the rings are missing a ruby, and he walks into a bathroom where one of the players is at a urinal, and he's peeking over his own urinal to try to look at his hand, and the a football player thinks he is not looking at his hand but looking at what his holding, and then Ace Ventura like, nope, gets out of there, and then the big burly, the big burly,
Football player?
the big burly football player skids after him like a little schoolgirl, and that's like, yeah, that's gay, but yeah, that was kind of funny still. Of course, there's the big one, that the main villain of the movie, a football player who went mad after one other football player apparently
This is out,
placed
dude.
a football so he he kicked it, and it didn't go right, and he made them lost all the game, and he went mad for that football player placed the ball. So much so he tried to change sex to more or less to make a big conspiracy to kill, and Ace Ventura stops him right before he does, and it's a woman who is playing a man who has gone mad. More or less, it's and in the finance in let's see, in the climax of the movie, Ace Ventura has to he has figured out that this the woman who is the chief of the police department is a man, and he rips open the police chief's shirt. There's boobies. Then he rips off. There's a panty, and then here comes to like real. Then that player who the other player wanted dead, who is tied up, noticed something, tells Ace, and then he's either this woman has the worst case of hemorrhoids I've seen, or that's, and then he turns around, and the player has tucked his penis, around his buttock. So you could, and that's like, in the context of the movie, that is a man. That is a man who has gone wild and has done his best to change, so he can, take revenge on the football. But I think a lot of trans people can still feel quite attacked by that, because, again, it's like Ace is trying to figure out that a woman that he thinks a woman is a woman is a, and the definitive truth he sees is that the woman has male genitalia, and that is a lot of transphobes look and point at that and point at it's a guy, if you get what I mean. And more or less, in a real perspective, it makes sense. If that was like a real thing that was if that was happening today, that would probably make a lot of celebrities and a lot of trans personalities very mad. You know what I mean?
Real quick, I'm gonna say there's a lot of things about this movie. Holes explanation that is given, but I think it's a little different only because only because I believe he's like the only reason a woman like elude the police, not because he escapes from a mental institution. Found out later he gets surgery. I don't think woman because it was things.
He killed a woman and took her identity.
Again, I don't think he killed her because when Ace Ventura is looking for clues in the insane asylum, he finds a clip, like a newspaper article in the insane asylum, saying like the hiker's name. He just happened to see
Oh,
that the hiker went missing in the newspaper and took her name.
oh.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
Timeline doesn't make a
okay.
lot of sense to
I'm
me.
sorry. Mm.
He saw that and then would have to get the surgery to become a woman to elude the police and people were looking for him. But then became a police captain. He spent working his way up to and then did his scheme. So like,
Roasting Tomato is like,
yeah,
I
if it's
I
like a
love how
club.
deep you're going on this movie. While the only thing I remember, it fits like a glove.
Well, that's why we are
Yeah.
here.
But thank you.
I think it's a good thing that we are going a bit deeper than just the
Yeah.
the
Yeah. And
superficial
of
thing.
course, like, yeah,
Like,
but of
so,
course, like, there's this thing that the football player asked the chief, when more or less went around the whole station, the whole SWAT team, kissing and making out with everybody. And when everybody finds out, they spit because like, oh God, no, and then a
Mhm.
guy tried
yeah,
claws at his
uh,
tongue, and that is, and it was very much when Ace Ventura found out, and he was like freaking out, burning his clothes, crying in the shower with a cold, probably a very cold temperature, and that is what a lot of magazines are calling the most transphobic moments in the movie, and I really do agree.
I don't
And
think
that's not only that, like, oh, that was a guy. Of course, it was in the subject of the movie, but if that was just a trans woman, that would be very trans. And
like I was
and not
saying,
only that, and on a gay level too, that's like not funny at all because that's like, yeah,
Benjamin.
yeah, you technically kissed the guy. What's the big? Are you
Well,
having a mental breakdown? Yeah, you
Okay,
are.
let
Benjamin,
Cloud
Benjamin.
talk.
In
Yeah.
the movie's defense,
Yes.
time when this movie came out,
Yes.
that's what was entertaining and what was a joke at the time. Now it is not, but at the
Yeah.
time, it
It
was a
came out in
different time.
'94, by the way.
Time
Oh, it's
like
younger than.
different. Like nowadays, like that joke would be inappropriate and wouldn't be funny, and no one would laugh at it.
It
But
would
when
be
that came,
offensive. It wouldn't. It wouldn't be inappropriate. It would be offensive. That is what it is.
but
If it was done nowadays, indeed.
being
It's not that I don't like this movie. I still love this movie. It's just that again, it makes sense in the context of the movie, and it was, it's like not explicitly transphobic because it is, um, because it is a man. If that crazy, if that crazy football player shouted that no, I'm a woman, then that would more or less, yeah, crush your whole argument, kind of. But yeah, but what I mean is, even if it makes sense, it's still on that level makes it also homophobic because they all very negatively react to that. Like, you get my meaning, but
I agree.
mm,
No, I agree that like
yeah, like again, it doesn't make it transphobic, but it makes it very homophobic. But if it's transphobic, then it isn't that homophobic. But if it's not transphobic, there's still a thing to get mad about, even if it makes sense, even if that woman isn't a woman in the context of the movie. It's still a lot of guys freaking out over that they kissed the guy. It's still quite.
It's still a little. It's a little bit. You're not wrong.
Yeah.
And like in the context of the movie, like in the time period,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
that's something you
Okay.
gotta understand.
Yeah, I love the movie. Until it gets transphobic at the end, but still great.
Okay. I must admit I never watched Ace Ventura.
No,
So-
no, oh, God, no, darling, oh, darling, you must do it. Even if we
Yes, I
spoiled
will
it for you, you must.
Probably do it
You must.
after the podcast or maybe tomorrow. But I want
Yes,
to.
yes.
Don't watch the sequel. Don't do
Yeah.
it.
I
Do
want
it.
to cap it
Don't
off.
do that to
No,
yourself.
no. I like the sequel. Shakaka.
Do that to yourself.
But I want to cap it off for today. We went on for
I like the sequel.
You know,
Shakaka.
an hour and 10 minutes now. Not counting
It's gonna be
the starting soon part.
Bitch to upload.
And I think
Yeah, bye, roasting tomatoes. Bye.
yes, I just want to say what we learned that movies from the 80s were a lot more bloody, were a lot more gory. They were perfect for the horror movie genre. Not
Yeah.
as much as
And a
good
lot of
for
old
like
movies were quite loose quite loose and thought that homosexuality was funny, and kind of like, ew, that's wrong.
You're not wrong.
Roasting
But
Tomatoes says,
anyway.
yeah, it was really good. Whenever you do a gaming podcast, I would love to attend. We keep you to that, Roasting Tomatoes. I will also.
I'm gonna
Oh,
attend.
wait, attend as
Same,
in.
I hope.
You can also join our Discord.
Ooh, yes.
And if you want to come on the podcast, please join our Discord. We will talk to you about it, and you can talk with us, not just in the chat, but via voice.
Yeah, be
Very
a part of
lovely.
the fabulous free.
Yes.
Yes, I have dubbed. I have dubbed us the fabulous free.
Good. Very good. Okay.
Oh, God damn it, that sounds good.
I know you have. I know Tomatoes has Discord
Yes.
because I'm in with him.
Okay. Thank you, everyone, for following
Thank
us.
you for coming. Follow us on all things: YouTube, Twitter. Benjamin has an Instagram. I don't know. Let's share it and post it. But
I will soon.
Good.
and yeah, so we have all the things pretty much on almost all of them, or as many as you want.
Yes.
But
The
I'll
link is
send you a
expired.
link.
Which one?
I'm on Discord. I'll send them a link.
Okay. Good. Thank you,
Alright.
everyone. We will end the podcast now. We see you.
Yes,
Sure,
and
people.
I will join fiery word battle with Cloud about how how the second one.
Anyway, people, see me this later. YouTube channel. Please comment and subscribe.
Subscribe.
Booey booey YouTube.
Bye bye, everyone.
Subscribe.
I love you all.